So you've got a house here in Knoxville that needs some work. Maybe the roof is leaking, maybe the floors are uneven, or maybe the tenants just left it in really rough shape. Or maybe you're not interested in listing the house or dealing with agents, scheduling showings, or waiting months for it to sell. And you're thinking to yourself, I'll just sell it as is and move on. Well, we hear that all the time, and trust me, you are not alone. But here's the truth that many people don't tell you. Selling a house as is doesn't mean doing absolutely nothing. And the wrong move, picking the wrong buyer, skipping the paperwork, or potentially pricing your home wrong could cost you thousands of dollars and delay your home sale months. After buying dozens of homes right here in Knoxville and all throughout East Tennessee, we've seen these 5 common mistakes come up again and again. And if you're thinking about selling your house as is, whether it needs repairs, has title issues, or you're just tired of dealing with it, then this video is for you. So let's break down the 5 biggest mistakes people make when selling a house as is in Knoxville, Tennessee, and how to avoid them. Mistake number 1, thinking as is, meaning that you can skip all of the details. Well, you're not fixing the house, but the buyers still need to know exactly what they're walking into and what they're buying. Just because you're selling a house as is, it doesn't mean that the buyer doesn't care what's wrong with it. In fact, the opposite is actually true, especially when you're dealing with a professional home buyer here in Knoxville who are putting their own money up to buy the property from you. Although when you are working with a local cash buyer, there's typically no due diligence period or obligation to use Tennessee's standard property disclosure forms like you would in a traditional real estate transaction when working with the realtor. So most serious buyers will be taking on 100% of the risk, and that should count for something. That's why real cash buyers will always want to walk the property at least once to understand what they're buying, not just making a cash offer sight unseen. If there are major foundation issues or the house is in complete disrepair, that's not a deal breaker for these cash buyers because most of them are fine buying properties that need serious work completely as is. But what they don't like are surprises, like most people, of course, and especially when it feels like something was intentionally held back or there are surprises that could derail the entire plan for the house that they originally had. Even cash buyers want clarity, and they aren't asking for repairs, but they do want to understand what they're getting into, and they want to know what their exit plan is, or most of it, before they actually buy your house. If there's a serious foundation issue or there's been mold in the let's say basement, or maybe the tenant hasn't paid rent in the last 6 months and they find that out after the fact, that could actually lead to the whole deal just falling apart altogether. And in most Tennessee home purchase contracts, buyers can actually back out without losing their earnest money deposit. And honestly, we've experienced this ourselves. We have been humbled plenty of times when our own realtor here in Knoxville walked through the property that we just bought only to give it to us straight. She would point out exactly what it's going to take to get that house to compete with the others that we just saw sold. And unfortunately, it was more than we expected. It was a really hard reality check, and it still is all the time. But that is something to be expected. Cash buyers are pricing their offers based on the real condition of the home and the work required to get it to that renovated market value. And if your home needs plumbing, HVAC, roof, or electrical updates, things that or even may appear small to you, they directly affect what someone can actually pay for your house. And when a house is overpriced for its condition, 2 things usually happen. It sits, and the longer it sits, the more red flags buyers start to raise for that property, or lowballers show up, sensing desperation because you've been on the market for too long, and they throw out offers that are way below the home's actual worth in its current condition. Now, pricing realistically and according to the condition of your house doesn't mean giving the house away. It means understanding what it's worth as is and working with buyers who know how to handle the repairs themselves and work it into their offer. And mistake number 4 is ignoring liens, back taxes, or title issues until closing. Now, a lot of homeowners here in Knoxville, Tennessee think that selling your house as is means that you could just skip the headaches and just hand it off and be done. Trust me, we all wish that it would work that way, but unfortunately, if you have liens, title issues, or unpaid mortgages, or maybe property taxes that are owed. All of that needs to be handled during and prior to the close of escrow. Now, not too long ago, we bought a property here in Oak Ridge that had been inherited. The seller thought everything was good. There should be no title issues. They had already completed probate. But once that title report was pulled up, there was actually an old probate case that had never been fully closed. And a judgment from over a decade ago was also on title from a previous heir. So we ended up having to work with a title attorney and spend a few more weeks tracking down documents from the county, getting the judgment released before we could close on this house. And the seller had no idea that any of this existed when we first signed the contract. So it is so much more common than people actually think, especially properties that have been in the family for a long time or even used as rentals. And here's the truth. Even if a buyer is fine with the house's physical condition, the title still has to be clean. That means no unresolved liens, no ownership disputes, and no surprise debts tied to the property. Otherwise, you can't transfer ownership cleanly, which is gonna always be one of the requirements that you receive when you're working with a cash offer. But here's the good news. With some of these more complicated home sales, when you're working with an experienced local cash buyer in Knoxville, then they'll often help you clear those title issues during escrow. However, it does help a lot if you know about them in advance and can proactively approach them rather than trying to put out fires during escrow, because it will certainly delay your escrow. I'm dealing with one right now. So if you're unsure, call a local title company and see if they can run a preliminary title search. It's simple and it will save you weeks of stress and hard answers, especially if you're trying to sell your house as quickly as possible. And I wish this wasn't true, but I can't tell you how many times, again, we have seen these title issues delay our closing, if not postpone it for a completely later date. And checking for unpaid property taxes is as simple as visiting the Knox County Assessor's website. Running a title prelim is as simple as contacting your local title officer or a real estate attorney. And if you even have the slightest sense that there may be a hiccup in title, check now before you're under contract, because most buyers are not going to stick around to sort it out with you. Jonathan and I have actually personally tracked down heirs and lien holders to negotiate mortgage payoffs and to also mediate the transaction, but that's rare. The average home buyer is not going to do that. We've put back together deals that have fallen apart that other buyers have walked away from. So don't let the lack of due diligence kill your deal. A little work up front is going to save you a lot of headaches in the long run. And mistake number 5 is assuming selling as is, meaning sold today. A lot of sellers in Knoxville hold off on accepting a realistic offer because they're hoping for something better, maybe the next month or maybe the next season. But what you're not calculating is the real cost of waiting for that market to actually change. Every month that goes by, you're still on the hook for either property taxes, your home insurance, utilities, a mortgage payment if there is one. And if the home's vacant and it's in rough shape, you also may be racking up code violations or maybe city fines on the property. So I totally understand the hesitation if you want to feel like you're getting the fairest offer and a real fair shake out of your sale. Sometimes holding along till the right buyer will come around is a sensible strategy. But here's what we've seen time and time again. The longer that you do wait for things to change, the more the weight of that property builds. It becomes something that you're constantly thinking about every time that a tax bill shows up or a letter in the mail shows up or the roof leaks again or maybe the toilet clogs up again. The stress will just compound on you. And by the time you're finally ready to sell, it's not just about the money. It's about the months and energy and the mental bandwidth that it's taken up from you. At this point, you may be tired and the house is actually in worse shape. And ironically, the offer you once had before might have been your best one that you potentially let go. So if you're not in a rush to sell your house quickly, then there's no worries. You've got time and this may not even apply to you. But if you do need to sell your house ASAP and you need to move on from your situation, then sometimes selling now, even if it's not perfect, means buying back your time and your peace of mind and the freedom to actually move forward. At the end of the day, selling your house as is in Knoxville is achievable and is a fair option for most people if you do your best to avoid these common mistakes that we just covered in this video. We have helped hundreds of homeowners navigate messy situations like inherited homes with title issues, rentals with bad tenants, homes that need major repairs, or properties that are just sitting vacant and costing them money me time and time again. I cashed out of my home. We have bought over 350 properties, maybe even 400 at this point since 2017. So if you need help selling your house for cash or quickly here in Knoxville, Tennessee, then just contact us. Our website and our phone number is down in the description below. We'll see you on the next video.